exciting edition of 3D Politics. As you'll notice, if you're a regular viewer, we've got a brand new setup as we work to improve all of our exciting delivery of our show here at 3D Politics. Tom McKay, your exciting host, got all three Davids, the most important Davids in Oklahoma, David Vann, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso, right here on 3D Politics. We've got an exciting show, a lot of stuff going on, commercial gaming compact, which I know there's a feisty debate going on with that, and there was a petition filed for recreational marijuana, which I thought I was on top of this right off the bat early on, but now the story has just exploded today. Yeah. I've got some comments on the impeachment proceedings just for the fun of it. Also,
I think we all have those.
I have no opinion on it.
The New Jersey assault on vaccines and mandatory vaccines that they're pushing. Also, the Trump support and the polls about how that's reading out there.
Here in Oklahoma.
Downturn in medical marijuana numbers and dollars.
Yep.
And, of course, you can see our new studio.
Yeah.
So let's just get started. I really think that the commercial gaming compact is probably the most important story of right now and coming up probably in next year. And I finally have some new attitude on this. I'm sure most people are up to speed on this, but the tribes are saying that the commercial gaming could put $150 million a year in fees to stay at risk because Governor Stitt is suggesting that these compacts don't renew, and he wants to, re-up the.
They renew constitutionally, don't
that's
they?
That's what the argument is, and so I'm wondering if he's playing a longer game, that if this does go to the Supreme Court, that it'll be, he'll win out on constitutional grounds.
Yeah, and we found out last week, the former state rep Wayne Pettigrew said, it's not a tax on the tribes. He said because it's unconstitutional to tax the tribes. The 15% is an exclusivity fee. There, I said it.
Yeah.
And it basically, our legislature 15 years ago sold out our constitutional rights to free enterprise. And
well, they'd already done that a long time ago. They finally just let us
way
play
back
as long as
machine
we gave
with
the
these
money
guys.
to the Indians.
Yeah, exactly. So, but this is the thing, and I think people are coming around to it. I think I've watched the discussion move a little more, and now I think it's all the point where they're saying, let's just open it up for everybody to have equal protection of their civil rights, to be involved in commerce, and that's where I think it needs to go.
But that would damage an ethno-monopoly, which are protected according to the United States Constitution.
Because you still are carving out a tax-exempt status for the tribes, that they might tax my gaming venture, and might feel they have every right to tax the proceeds of what I do, but the tribes will be tax exempt. Now, this will be interesting because the church will say, well, we ought to be tax exempt too. And
why do I pay taxes on my church bingo games?
St. Estelle's Catholic Church having Sunday night bingo, like in my hometown. They always had bingo, and it was a fundraiser, and it came for a good cause.
So, from this story by Barbara Hobrock, Tulsa World, Stitt told the Tulsa World commercial operators have proactively reached out and shown interest in Oklahoma's market. Now, if that's true, and I suspect it is, he really kind of has a duty to act on that, don't you think? I mean, he has to at least comment or respond if it's a viable interest for the state.
Well, the problem here, again, is the foundation for all of this is unconstitutional. So the constitutional duty that the governor has is actually a fake constitutional duty.
5 minutes in, and he claimed constitutionality. Your vote's
Yeah.
Well, you already beat me with that one.
I was betting with myself whether or not he was going, not when he was going to say it, but when he was going to come down on, is it constitutional or is it not?
Yeah.
I didn't know what he was going to say.
I wanted a drinking game during the impeachment hearings. Where every time they said, it's like, or it would be like, or it would be be
Yeah.
sort of like.
Okay.
So the point is not before we go to the Wayback Machine of how everything is unconstitutional. The concept is that if there is a viable operator that contacts the governor for a good business deal, the governor, whoever
Right.
it is, has a responsibility
So-
to respond, bring it
Yeah.
to the forefront to discuss it. This deal could be made. They want to sign a deal tomorrow. 18% for to open it up.
Well, this goes back. This isn't about the Wayback Machine, as you put it. It's
Just trying to be
no,
facetious,
no.
David.
But
I
the
loved
point
it.
is, though, no. We need to. I mean, this is how we end up with opportunity zones. Are
Yeah.
we not already supposed to be the land of the free? The land of the free means a giant single opportunity zone.
So because you're going so far back, would you consider yourself a paleo conservative?
My point is that
Jurassic vote.
that we are in a unique point in history that if we will accept it and rise to the challenge, we can get back rights that belong to us right now.
You're absolutely
And
right.
especially in this.
Yeah.
But only
Van,
we
let me-
squander
Van,
them if
Please, Van. Go ahead. No, I want to hear
Well,
you say something.
okay, for the lawmakers and other policy wonks who care not a whit for constitutional principles, it comes down to this. If you throw out that exclusivity clause, now all of a sudden you're losing, what, 150 million, they're saying. Now the tribes are going to get to operate tax-free. You're not skimming 15% to give to the
Right.
state. Now, then what Stitt's going to have to do to please these pragmatic bunch is escalate in, move real quick to bring in others so that you're replacing that. Now, this is to the pragmatic bunch, okay? The folks who care not a
Right.
whit for the constitutional
I don't
principles.
understand. We just
But-
raised the largest tax in history last
oh,
year.
then we're going to
10
lose
tax
150 million more.
on a $1 billion surplus. Where is the lack of funds?
Yes, but I'm saying he's going to be dealing with people who say we need that $150 million.
Well, I know, but their premise is stupid, is it not?
Right.
Yes.
Now,
Okay.
Now,
All right,
keep
so
in
we're on the same
mind.
page then.
Keep in mind that we're getting about 80 millions coming in marijuana sales. Okay. Now some of that's
Yeah, but
local.
that's found money. You can't take that away. That's stealing from the state. If you then no, if you cut back 150 million, go, oh, but we had 180, we have 80 that we didn't even count on. So we're good to, we're only down 70. That's not the way they look at it. They
I'm
look
not
at it
telling
like,
you it's the
okay.
way to. I'm telling you how the pragmatists who care not a whit for constitutional
No, I know,
principles
that's what they-
are looking at
Is
it. And I'm
this
saying
pragmatist?
for the
or-
people
Here's-
with
here's
the
my point.
with the education lobby, the DHS people
yeah, they
worried
look
about
at it as
all
$150
that.
million loss.
So you
Right.
consider them to be mistaken. That's what you're saying. But you're playing devil's advocate
And
right
I'm
now.
saying you've got to be ready for them to come to war against you on it. And what I'm saying, what you have is 80 million in new taxes from the marijuana industry, and now you've got gambling ventures that can spring up. And I don't mean just the big casinos. I mean whenever some other entity decides we want to, whether
Quick Trip put
yeah.
in slot machines like in Vegas.
There you go.
all over
I
Nevada.
mean, there's all kinds of things like that can move pretty fast, and we might be able to pull 50 million within the next fiscal year from that. So it could be that it's a wash that way, and then Stitt doesn't have to worry about the big government got to have more money, feed the beast kind of thing. So that was my point.
I was just looking to give the governor a little bit of room for, face and negotiations. I think he's in. If another gambling entity came to him and said, "We'll pay you 18% tomorrow," from what I understand, the tribes are paying anywhere ranging from 4 to 10%.
I heard 15, but maybe I'm wrong.
I read that somewhere. I
Like
got
to the state.
Yeah.
the different compacts come in
Okay.
differently, as you taught me.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And
Whether
so
it's
I
class
read
2,
somewhere
class
it's
3.
4 to
yeah.
10%.
I heard not enough because I'm all about foreign nations paying as much to taxes as the United States government as possible, and American citizens paying the least amount of taxes.
The governor has a duty to look at that entity and and judge whether it's a good deal or not. Whether he comes down on the side of the tribes or not, whether it's constitutional or not, whatever it is, if somebody comes in to the governor and says, look, you're only getting 10 and I'll pay 18 tomorrow, the governor has a duty to press that out.
Well, and again, this is the mindset we have to actually work out of ourselves.
He's trying to fix me.
Remember the old kings of England and kings? They have their
David,
court.
remember those guys?
Their courtiers.
Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
like them.
Well, remember the guys with the high ruffles around
And the
their
cod
their-
pieces.
and-
Most paleo conservatives do remember them.
Okay, my point is that they come and beg the king to acknowledge their presence and acknowledge their business venture and give support to it. In a free society, we're just the opposite.
Stamp Act,
and
right?
the governor does not have the right or the authority to deny or give credence to anything. The only thing he can do is regulate. In other words, make sure that you're not being cheated by it. So anyone in a truly free society, anyone can open up a gambling casino.
Exactly.
Anybody.
Yes.
And they need no permission from anybody, no permit, no license, no nothing.
Even for bingo night at church.
Yes.
Well, and it gets
Yes.
tricky, and that may be true, but it gets tricky when there's a previous agreement, right?
No, that previous agreement is completely
Might be.
lawless. It's completely
Well,
illegal.
You
it's-
still have to sort it out legally.
No.
Well,
How do you?
it just
No.
gets dropped.
Oh,
It's done.
I don't care what the morning radio talk show hosts say. It does expire at the end of this month. It just does. So it's not an issue anymore.
Wow.
no. Why do you
It's-
say that?
Well, because it says
It's got an expiration date.
It says right at the top. Yes, this will expire January 1st,
Oh, okay.
2020. And so my point is, this is a good thing for the tribes. At the end of this month, they quit paying that duty to the state.
Correct.
And
Call it what you will.
I get to open up a sports betting operation. Cool.
Oh yeah, I think you are doing that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I didn't know that there was a listed expiration date.
Oh,
Otherwise,
but-
I am reading from the Tulsa World that it's somehow in question.
I got to clarify.
Please.
Yes, Fantasy Lawmaker starts in January. We'll have sign up then. Thank you. Go ahead.
Can you gamble
No, that's
on it?
fine. I just wanted to put that one to
See it
bed.
for
We're done
January.
for now with the commercial gaming. I think that either way, it's got to be. It's going to have to be figured out in court. I
Yeah.
think one way or the other.
Well, somebody's
What?
gonna go to court over something. There's too much money at stake.
And it's trial by combat. It's no different than Game of Thrones, getting two people in a ring trying to kill each other, except you do it with words, rhetorically. Whoever is better at manipulating the facts is going to be the victor. And that's the legal system going back essentially to the beginning of time.
Yeah, I
Because
think
we don't care about anything that's actually written.
the tribes will take Governor Stitt to the tribal courts, and Stitt will respond by taking them to the Oklahoma Supreme Court.
Correct.
So if you're just joining us, it's 3D politics right
And
here.
it'll end up at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Once again, Tom McKay, your host. We got all three Davids today: David Van, David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso. And what about this petition to legalize recreational marijuana? They just filed it. Carmen Foreman, right here, from the
Bad news.
Oklahoman, an initiative to petition to legalize recreational marijuana for use for Oklahomans ages 21 and older, was quietly filed with the Secretary of State's office Thursday. 15-page petition seeks to amend Oklahoma's constitution to legalize recreational marijuana for most residents and impose an excise tax of, boom, 15% on recreational but not medical marijuana. Which, the first time you pay that 15% on recreational pot, it's not too bad. The second time, it's not much
Oh
worse.
no, it's going to be
By the
20.
third time, you're pretty well used to it.
Yeah, it's actually going to be about 24% because these folks made the same mistake that Chip Paul and the last folks did when they said it's going to be subject to a tax of 7% on all sales, but they didn't say a sales tax. They said a tax on sales.
Sales, yeah.
And the wise
You can punch your
pirates,
tax
the pirates at the Oklahoma Tax Commission, yes, I called you pirates,
Oh.
decided that, that sounds like an excise tax. Yes, that's excise tax.
You know what?
Therefore, since it's taxable, it's also subject to a sales tax because they didn't specifically exclude it from that, and so we're going to charge both. And these people walked right into that same trap.
And they're going and they already volunteered an exorbitant tax,
A sin tax.
that is a sin tax. They've just placed it on everybody. Yeah. Oh, these people are so gracious. To end prohibition when you've got a gigano tax on it? No, that's not ending prohibition. No. That's continuing it.
Yeah.
So and did you notice the wording for most residents? Not all residents. It's not freedom. Mm-hmm. It's upon a certain number of people, but not everybody, and therefore again there's no equal protection under the law.
Now I looked at it as one of my bloggers, Nigel O'Malley, pointed out three things. In fact, you can find his article on 3D Politics Live on Facebook. It's also on Soonerpolitics.org, where he found out three different things where this thing screwed up. Mm-hmm. One, it says dispensaries cannot, or retail outlets had to be 1,000 feet from a school. And then if you go into definitions, they describe school very vaguely. So that
Does it look like it's harmed the facility location since there's one approximately on every street corner?
A Sunday school
qualifies as a school.
Would qualify as a school. Therefore, now you're saying all churches.
What happened to reading comprehension? This is obvious. The way the law was written is there isn't just one tax. It says it's subject to tax,
now,
which refers to several potentials.
Yeah, I mentioned the couple of women who signed it as the ones presenting, and I'm sure there are some others. I've heard other people pitching the idea of going rec, and I won't mention their names because they didn't volunteer it, but there's people trying to defend this thing. But I've got a large Facebook group, about 10,000 medical marijuana patients, that I ran it by them today, and right away there was about 30 comments, about 90% negative on this. So those who are already consuming it with a medical license as a patient are saying, this thing sucks. It's poorly written.
Well, again, remember, we already have the right. The right exists and belongs to all of us. Mm-hmm. The only thing that we lack is enforcement of that right upon those who would deny us.
Yeah.
So we need no vote, the federal government and the state government. And it's all branches of both of those governments.
It's a pretty big government.
Those levels and locals as well.
So for the stoners, what they'll want to know from the Oklahoman, the tax money. Should the proposed state question 806 pass, the petition grants Oklahoma's legislature the power to change the set tax rate no sooner than November 3, 2024. Right. The tax money would go into a new fund called the Oklahoma Marijuana Revenue Trust Fund. You can trust that.
Like he said.
Here's what the stoners want to know. Under the proposed state question, people caught smoking marijuana in a disallowed public place will be subject to a $25 fine. Mm-hmm. The petition bars law enforcement officials from searching, detaining, or arresting people who are caught smoking marijuana in public places.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, this is...
I just want to say, as a callback, as a sidebar, I respect the brave civil servants, the Oklahoma Tax Commission. They really are the best of the best, the cream of the crop, and I appreciate them never auditing me.
Suck up.
Love in the air.
Well, the other thing that Nigel O'Malley points out is says that the plants, which you can grow, but now they limit it further, that if your household has 3 patients, you can be growing up to 3 dozen plants right now.
It's criminal that you can only have 144,000 joints in your possession at any given time.
I don't know where you got that number. But it says now every household residence can now be limited to just 24. So even if you got...
Yeah, freedom starts limiting your freedom.
And they say if those plants can be seen from a public street, then you're subject to a fine of like $250.
And see, again...
If they can be seen, not identified, they just see a green blob,
Again, look at this stuff, folks. This is not freedom. Freedom is it's not criminal. There's no harm to anybody else. It's not criminal. You can do it. That's what freedom is. These people are not promoting freedom. They're promoting more prohibition.
Yeah.
In fact, like he just said, I said it wrong, but their freedom is worse than prohibition now.
Yeah.
Because right now you can have up to 3 dozen plants. They take it down to 2 dozen, and that's called freedom.
Yeah. And there's another thing. 788's about to get hit with another restriction. Representative Jim Olson from out in Stillwell area just filed a bill that said you cannot have a dispensary grow operation within 1,000 feet of now a church or any facility that a church occasionally rents or may occasionally rent. And
So in other words, every shopping
Like a
center.
bingo hall.
and yeah, so a church can just go around and rent something. And by the way, it doesn't mean where they gather for worship. It could be just a church office somewhere or church warehouse
Right.
or storage facility, But anyway, so one of the response to Jim Olson's statement, now Jim is, ordained evangelist, and
I did
his
not
people
know that.
he gets, yeah. But
In other words, he's one of these right tyrants.
well,
Now, David,
So,
that was just
but
uncalled
here
for.
was a response to him. Because this is a medicine that many of our veterans are heavily relying on, it's helping them.
Sure.
That
We're
yards.
wondering if we shouldn't also amend that bill to say no church can organize within 1,000 feet of a drugstore, a
Right.
hospital, a medical clinic, a nursing home,
Well,
or
and-
dispensary.
And
Yeah.
there can be no drugstore within 1,000 feet of a church or a school or any of those things.
Well,
No, but you turn around and you say the church is banned from opening up next to the
yeah,
drugstore.
I see
Well,
what you're
that
saying.
too,
and
but-
logically, that's
but
there.
to keep it
But for some reason, it's crystallized better, greater in the public that you've got this religious right because it's enshrined in the First Amendment. And so these rights to have 144,000 plus joints in your home, that's enshrined in the Ninth
let me-
Amendment and the Tenth Amendment, which have been trampled.
Well, the Ninth
Correct.
Amendment says we have other rights
Right.
that are not enumerated here,
Right.
but there's still a
That's
rights.
true.
One of which is to not die, to take medicine, to get well, to
To
get
have
therapy.
144,000 plus joints.
I would say
or
what?
bullets, or bullets,
Wha-
whatever you want.
Why do you need 144,000 joints? I don't know. I don't like marijuana.
I don't know
but
where you get this 144,000.
It's just a magical number.
Oh,
I
it's
think
a
he
gross
gets it from the
demagogue.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay.
I thought they're Rastafarians.
The
I don't
law
know.
clearly, the law should read: keep your kids 1,000 feet away from my dispensary. Well, it does. It is interesting that it seems like most of what they're doing with this legalization of recreational is figuring out how much they're going to charge people to work it, and clearly the tax implications are not clear. And I know that no one in this story is thinking about when the tax kicks in 2021 July in Tulsa from the Vision 2025. You're going to pay the price,
Yeah.
because the tax tsunami hasn't even gotten here yet. Hey, for the fun of it, this time I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself and tell us
all right.
how to find you.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I'm David Van. I'm the publisher of, well, actually, the proprietor of
I should have never started this.
Soonerpolitics.org. I say I'm not the publisher because
You're not
Yeah,
a publisher.
I should have
do
never
not
started this.
publish.
Stop.
You're,
Stop
you're
right
a platform.
now. Stop
not a-
right now. I
You're
should
a
have never
platform.
started this.
Oh, God.
I should have never started this. All you're supposed to say is, my name is David Van, and then you can
David,
get
I think your phone's ringing. That's your attorney, I think. Is that...
Soonerpolitics.org. Ready? Just tell them your name and where we can find you. Don't explain anything.
Gary Richardson wants to know where he can serve papers. Anyway,
Here it goes.
3dpolitics.org. Check us out. You might enjoy part of it. You might disagree with other parts.
Tell it.
I'm David Oldham, Constitutional Grounds. Find me on Facebook right now, Constitutional Grounds.
I'm David D'Ambroso. You can find me by Googling David D'Ambroso.
He owns the internet, at least social media part of it.
So, what about the impeachment? Who's got the? It's finally impeachment instead of just inquiry.
Well, Merry Christmas for one thing, you
Yeah.
know. And by the way, Nancy Pelosi does not hate especially at Christmas time. This is not hate. She loves Donald Trump so much that she. Well, go ahead.
She loves us so much that she wants to make sure that Donald Trump gets out of office.
Yeah.
Now, Pelosi's very smart. She didn't want this. She was strong-armed into it, I believe.
Yeah, right.
It was that or you're out of here. They were going to run her out.
She would love to process Donald Trump into, like, some kind of, like, meat or something, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
she didn't want impeachment because she is smart enough, politically, to know that this guarantees that they're going to lose more seats, the Democrats, in the House.
Do you
and the
think
Senate.
that's true?
I think
Because
I
I don't
agree.
I don't necessarily
she drug her feet,
think
drug her
that-
feet, drug her feet. They
I
demanded
think
it.
they had a power split in the Democratic.
I think
She
her
never
own
wanted
her own House caucus basically gave her the what for. And that was about 3 months
And
ago.
her rationale probably is, it's going to be a train wreck, but who better to preside over this train wreck? I will mitigate the damage to the Democratic Party. I'm Nancy Pelosi. I think that's what she believes.
Yeah. It's
I
pathetic.
agree. Yeah.
It's
I noticed that most of the Democrats consistently and almost go out of their way to use the concept of the system they're saving as a democracy. Oh,
Yes.
it's a democracy. So
Yeah.
I started
Yes.
chiming in, Republic, not a democracy. I was pleased to see that some of the Republicans finally said it's a representative republic. But I've noticed a concerted effort, not only from the Democrats, but also in the news media, to continually ring that it's a democracy, got to save democracy.
It's a
threatens
brilliant
our democracy.
Conflation, and it's
Yes.
just one of many examples of how the left controls language. They control the frames on all the debates,
Yeah.
and we as conservatives have to stop it. The reason why Trump is so hated by the establishment of both parties, because there's really one party, it's the powered interests in Washington, is because Trump discards their narratives. He throws them in the garbage. All the other Republicans, like Mitt Romney, will show up to a debate on a premise of when do you beat your wife, before or after dinner, and he will discuss when he beats his wife, when he doesn't at all. He accepts the frame that somehow he beats his wife. That's typical conservatism, and it's going away thanks to Trump.
I want to say, Alden, I think you'll appreciate this perspective. Back Andrew Jackson's day, Washington hated him. He's very much like Trump. It was a very and that's part of the reason Trump identifies with Andrew Jackson, because they're both outside.
I did find it hilarious, though, that each time they talked about CrowdStrike or Burisma, it was and Biden, the Democrats admitted that automatically, if you say Burisma, we're talking corruption, and if you're talking corruption, we know you're talking Biden. I mean, they literally have made the case. It's
I love it.
It was equal. Biden equals
I love it.
corruption.
Well,
The
here's an
Democrats
interesting
basically
thing.
presumed that he had committed the crime because they presumed that any investigation, just
Right.
looking into what he did,
Simply
would
look at it.
invariably uncover that he had committed these felonies.
Because we all know he's dirty.
Well, let's go even further. Because you are looking into potential corruption, or we'll leave it in the potential realm, okay? And you want somebody to look into corruption, investigate it for you from their end of things. To take that rationale that because there's an election and the person who possibly was committing or alleged to have committed corruption could potentially be your candidate, that would preclude, to take it out to its logical end, preclude every DA, attorney general, and so forth from ever, or judge, or
now that is the way back
anything.
machine.
Well, no, prevent them from hearing a case or investigating, because they would end up in an election potentially against somebody that would have committed crime.
The Dems, their strategy is successful. It's succeeding at this table tonight. We're talking about their nonsense premise instead of what we should actually be talking about.
Well, I'm only talking about it because I want people to see how nonsensical
I
it
think I
is.
tricked him into
No,
talking
no,
about
I
it.
think
But
they started the impeachment thing because they knew that the next step with Attorney General Barr was going to be to go after the investigators. Right? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but I mean, what are we not looking at? The Democrats lack a vision. The fact that they weaponize the courts against a sitting president illegally. The fact that 4 prominent Democrats' children work for Burisma and are by graft stealing from the American public. Yeah. We have no idea if those billions would have ever gone to the Ukraine. So we're not talking about any of that. We're not talking about the fact that the Clintons' friends traveled to Lolita Island far more than we already knew they did. Yeah. We're talking about, well, should our guy get in trouble because it's some stupid thing the Democrats just made up? You literally can't investigate anybody ever, as you said, which you've identified what the logical premise is. The problem is, yes, we know it logically that doesn't fly, but it's succeeding tactically for what they want. We're talking about this instead of their crimes. We're talking about this instead of the treason that they are guilty of right now and the punishment for the treason that they're guilty of.
That's a good point.
Well, how about if I just try to balance this out? I was absolutely riveted by nearly all 12 hours of the horrible thing.
You were?
Really?
It was horrible.
Is this sarcasm?
Oh no! It was like a bad movie. Once you get committed, and you're like, my God, I can't believe they haven't.
No, I walked out of Chud.
And I was walked out of Chud.
I walked out of Chud.
So no, I loved it. Now I'm a breeder, as they say. I got 5 kids, and I love the fact that we were
pedestrian.
12 hours of these guys arguing about the rules of impeachment and what it meant and what the Constitution meant and what the founding.
You listened to the whole markup day.
Oh yeah. That's what's wrong with me.
I had too much to do that day.
You don't have
too.
You don't have
I have
life.
plenty of life. You're sitting here with me. The thing is that they did mention the founding fathers over and over, and they argued about what the founding fathers
perverted the history over and over and over again.
If you ever want to teach children, you will have to take their perverted understanding and straighten it out. And this is one of the greatest things that's happened. We have a more informed electorate than we've had in 50 years.
Yeah, well, and it just goes back to this. It's human nature. I mean, for whatever reason, they did research on people trying to cut in a copier line, right? And they found out that it didn't matter what excuse people gave, it was accepted, and people would let them cut in line no matter what if they used one magical word. And that was the word because. And they tested it. They thought, well, maybe it's if you have a good reason. Well, they intentionally used all kinds of illogical things. I need to get in front of you because I need to print 5 copies. Well, of course you need to print some number of copies. The numbers are, or because because my cat's sick, I need to get in front of you, or whatever. The point is, as soon as you have a premise, no matter how weak that premise is, and we're seeing it full display,
right?
People,
on both sides,
will take it, will engage with it.
Yes.
They will engage with it as if you came to them with a mathematical theorem of proof. As if, wow, this is really something that is distinctive. This is the question that will solve the meaning of the universe. We approach every single premise like that. And for some reason, we do it, and they manipulate this. And I think the strategy is just reject it. Say, no, I'm not going into you get to impeach someone for any flippin' reason.
Yeah.
It's literally because they said because we don't like him. Because his hair is weird.
It's
because
nature,
whatever.
yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
I think you're on to
So we
something
have to
there.
find a way to go, no, this is hooey. I'm not going to say you get to take all of my money because. Or you get to take all of my rights away because. Or you get to end our republic because.
Right.
Or impeach our president because.
Yep.
Now, one magic phrase I learned from the hearings was a CHS. You know what a CHS is?
No.
Oh, that's a confidential human source.
Oh, okay.
Not a spy.
It's a whistle.
Not a spy.
Okay, I think I straightened you guys out after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
That's
a big
good one.
discussion about were they a spy or
Were
not
they
a spy.
spies? So there's no, it wasn't a spy.
We can all agree there's a massive distation between a CHS and a spy.
Holy mackerel! Yeah.
You're not even at all the same. Not
Right.
similar at all.
But, for whatever the sham that this is, what I think the result, though, is politically, is it's actually helping Trump.
Oh, there's no doubt.
He now
I think
it guarantees his reelection. I wouldn't be willing to guarantee a Republican majority in the House. I am pretty close right now to saying that I am sure there will be a Republican majority in the House of Representatives and will retain.
You know
Republican
what?
So
majority.
I'm curious, just thinking about this, I'm curious, what do our viewers think Kendra Horn is going to do?
She was mentioned, by the way, on Rush Limbaugh.
Oh,
She
yeah.
was. She'd
Oh,
been
yeah. I've
several
heard-
different places. She was
I've
mentioned.
heard that she is opposing. It's a rumor. I mean, or as Democrats call it, a metaphysical fact. It's a rumor, but that she is not supporting impeachment because she would like to be reelected.
Right.
I think Nancy Pelosi is probably begging her to vote against it because Nancy wants her to stay in office.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Nancy's not as dumb as she looks.
And this comes down to the next question that I have for our viewers over in the Oklahoma City area is, will you give her a pass if she doesn't vote for impeachment because she did vote to move it along and to bring it in the first place? So the question is, does she get a pass because she voted against it after she voted for it, or
Here's
what?
why she's in trouble. She won in 18. In 2016, I believe in her district, you had more than 20,000 people straight line vote Republican. 2020, Trump's on the ballot. It doesn't matter what she does. If she turns water into wine, it doesn't matter. She's going to get hung up on a rhetorical cross. She's one term almost no matter what, in my opinion.
She's
No, I
out.
think so.
She's out just because she voted Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. Period.
Well,
And she has a D in front of her name in 2020.
Well, those are the kinds of questions I've got. Are people going to be so politically short-sighted and short-memoried that they look at one vote and they forget everything else she's done? So I'm just curious as to where people are at, because she has voted
good
time
question.
and time and time again against constitutional principles, against liberty, against the things that we should actually be demanding she uphold.
I think our Christmas present, coming that we're going to unwrap shortly after the new year,
and then I'll
is
like the show's done.
Trump gets a Senate trial for impeachment. And so this is why Democrats are really profoundly stupid. It's an early Christmas present for the Republic, which I think is very appropriate. They're both Roman in origin, but the trial, the Senate trial, where he gets to call witnesses, oh my goodness, where he gets to subpoena people, right?
Yeah.
And he gets to put them on the stand under the penalty of
And finally,
perjury.
you mean finally show that he had,
Oh
he had
my
cause for
gosh.
doing what he did?
And then I would love to get Democrats in these back doors and ask them, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Why would you have an impeachment that leads to a Republican Senate conducting a trial?
Yeah.
Why in the world? And there's the secondary Christmas present that we need to be looking at going into this next decade. We have been on the back foot as conservatives for over 100 years. It's about time we had some tribunals about actual objective violations of our natural rights, constitutional law, statutory law, and name the laws. It's about time you hold these people accountable that want to hold us accountable criminally for committing no crime. And that's really what this whole impeachment thing is about. It's really coming to a head. I think this is where the philosophical and the news story will be when people look back on history reports on this time. It was the time, hopefully, conservatives took the initiative back and actually prosecuted crime, and criminals had their ability to prosecute law-abiding citizens taken away.
Well, and I think it'll be Americans who will finally do that, not just conservatives. I think because we
Don't be redundant.
well, you are right. The thing is that we have plenty of people who call themselves conservatives who aren't good patriots, but we are getting back to a time of a head where you have your nationalistic, just your patriotism that isn't founded in anything truly patriotic, versus people who are finally learning what true patriotism is.
No, yeah, and I think there's a point to it. It's not just the conservative, the Trump segment. You got Jonathan Turley. Is that the guy's name? The law professor?
Scholar,
yeah.
You know, I mean, the Republicans and the House Judiciary Committee had one person testify. They picked a Democrat.
Right.
It was Turley. And he said, look, I voted for Clinton. But you guys are nuts to be impeaching this
He's
guy.
intellectually honest, and it's
Yes.
true.
Right.
You know,
It's mostly conservatives, but no, there is a Big Ten here. It's anyone who's intellectually honest.
Right, and even if take what's his name, the law professor
Dershowitz.
at Dershowitz. You know, he's a liberal, but he says this is nuts. This is a miscarriage of justice, of our constitutional separation of powers and stuff. And then you got your Brexit movement. You've got people that maybe they aren't far right Republicans, you know, but they're at the same time say, I no longer identify with the radicals on the left.
These are all conservatives because what is more fundamental than truth? We're trying to literally conserve the truth and the national integrity.
Yeah.
These people are now becoming all Alan Dershowitz is an honorary conservative.
But I'm telling you, there are plenty of people who are now saying this is wrong, even though they plan on voting Democrat. They still say this is wrong.
And it's growing.
It was a Democrat.
Yeah, but
First Democrat, I think.
I think it was before Jackson's day that they changed how we selected our electoral college. When did that come into play?
No, the electoral college
With the
came
vice
in.
president and the president. or
The
what?
changes to the electoral college and the 12th Amendment that came in early 1800s.
Okay,
Very early.
so here's what I want to say to this. Before that amendment, where the people voted for electors, you were an elector last presidential election. Before that, the House got to vote for who our president was. And
Only if the electors couldn't decide themselves.
before there was an electoral college.
No, there's always been the electoral college.
But
it was how the president was chosen.
Okay.
Or the vice president was chosen.
Yes.
That was what changed with the 12th.
They now run on a
there
ticket.
was-
There used to be
There
individual.
did not used to be a popular vote in each state for who
For senators
they.
as well,
the-
right? Well, that was later. That was Wilson.
Yeah, but I'm talking about where we got to vote for president, because at the founding of this Constitution, we did not vote for
Yes,
president.
we did.
Uh,
The states voted they could come up with their own means of
There it is.
generating the
Yeah.
electorate. The actual required vote for the people to decide the electors
Okay.
didn't happen until the 14th Amendment.
Okay, but until that happened, it was up to each state how
Correct.
they chose that.
Correct.
And we've unified and standardized it by constitutional amendment.
Correct.
So here's the point I'm going to with this. The House of Representatives used to have a lot more power than they have now. They just now still retain the power to impeach, to remove from office that person for whom the states chose
Yeah.
by choosing their electors and how their electors voted. And so
Keep getting
I'm sorry,
watered
but-
down by adding more and more electors
So what
due
I'm
to
saying
census
is
results and illegal
that
immigration.
that reform allowed the people a more direct say
Sure.
when you're down to a few
Yeah.
prominent candidates,
Yeah.
in whom Washington might have voted for, the D.C. swamp, is probably different from who the people in the Commonwealth states.
Right.
And so, thank God for that reform. Now, is it perfect? No. But, again, it allowed more uniform, consistent right of the people to weigh in directly on that issue than what we might have had in Jefferson's day.
Okay.
So those are the things that I think are unique here, because the last vestige of that previous power that the House had is the power to impeach, and they are just going to go ahead and do it. But I think they're finding themselves very unpopular, especially in Oklahoma, as we're going to discuss later.
I think that's why the left likes to emphasize the democratic element. I mean, we're a constitutional republic, but we have democratic elements of our constitutional republic, like
Correct.
voting.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I think the reason why they want to focus on this, maybe even philosophically going back to, initially only landowners could vote. And so
In some states.
In
the
some
vote
states.
got spread to, a vastly wider group without going into the history.
Mm-hmm.
And so the left likes this, and they think, well, if a little of something is good, a lot of it's even better. Well, that's not scientific thinking. That's not logical. That's not necessarily true. It's like if a little bit of salt in my food, maybe a pound of it's even better. Well, no, you'll die. And so they want to expand democracy so much that the entire, I mean, you've heard this, right? I would be making this up a few years ago. Please Google it. Please don't believe me. The left wants to expand voting to everyone in the world in United
Yeah,
States elections.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
illegals.
Yeah.
So they love it. And that's why
Now-
they stand on calling our republic a democracy.
Okay, here's a tricky thing, because some are saying, should 16-year-olds have a right to vote?
No, their brains aren't formed yet.
Technically,
Thanks for attending my TED Talk.
technically, the states have that latitude to choose that. Now, we guaranteed by constitutional amendment some minimums. Like in
18 years old.
in some states, take Wyoming, back at statehood, which is what, 1850, they immediately allowed women to vote.
Yep.
But the suffrage amendment was like, what, 1920? 1918?
1920 for women. Got the
okay,
right to
around-
vote.
yeah.
So,
right.
yeah, around that time, that's when we guaranteed it in all states. But before that, certain states did, certain states didn't.
Correct.
For instance, you talked about had to be a landowner, and Oldham was correct to say some states had that rule, some didn't. Now we can go to other things. Some states allow you as a convicted felon to still vote, other states do not. You could make the voting age younger than 21, but we passed an amendment right after the Vietnam War that said, no, not 21, we're going to say 18.
Right.
So there's latitude to go further. Now, you might not like the 16-year-old voting rights. Maybe I don't. But the Constitution does not state at which age we reach
Sure.
majority, age of majority.
Sure, it's far more
It's
open
going to
than
be
a
the
lot of people
Supreme Court
imagine.
that's going to say that.
Should it
that's-
be?
No, of course not. Because,
Thank you.
Because the Supreme Court has no power, no legislative power, and nor does the legislature have legislative power in this, because this is a matter of right. So it has to come down to what we, the people, agree upon, and that requires constitutional amendment.
Yeah.
So, and that's key to understand about this.
Or just let each state choose for that state.
Well, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. The big thing, going back to what D'Ambrosa was saying, is that this whole idea of democracy, they want everything put up to a vote. They want your rights put up to a vote.
Yeah.
They want to be able to take everything into this political sphere, and even if you said it, they want to then overturn it, or even if they've said it, then they want to fight and have that.
Yeah.
For some reason, they want to always be in this dilemma and have this angst going on.
Right, because in a pure democracy, right, 51 out of 100 people can vote to eat the other 49.
Right.
And it's perfectly
Well,
democratic.
yeah, because
Yes.
it's all about the quantity of the vote, how many, instead of the quality of the representation of the vote.
It's pure. It does not take into account a sacred concept we have in the West and further enshrine the American Constitution, which is individual rights.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Democracy has no concern about individual rights.
trying to
Correct.
tie these,
Property rights, especially.
trying to tie these comments into the impeachment hearings this last week. I made the snide comment that I don't know how we're going to afford the money for the Ukraine if we've already spent the money on the DACA kids. Are we going to save the money on the DACA? Then my other suggestion was, let's just immigrate the DACA kids to the Ukraine.
There you go.
They're so valuable.
Yeah.
Anyway.
By the way, I want to say, as we're to wrap this up, another thing that Nebraska and Maine do is they allow every congressional district's elector to vote independently of the rest of the state. They vote how that elector is chosen by that congressional district. And it's not like the rest of the 48 other states where it's winner take all for the whole state, such as Oklahoma.
And remember when you are voting for an elector, you are voting for the elector, not the president.
Mm-hmm.
So that elector is not a rubber stamp for your vote. So you have to actually make a good choice on the elector, so that elector is actually going to follow your mandate, your ideological mandate.
So you see,
Or
those
even
of
an
you,
elector did.
those of you in Congressional District 1, Tulsa area, and 4 others, you only think you voted for Trump. You actually voted for this guy.
Oh my God.
David Oldham
Who'd you
was
vote for,
actually,
Oldham?
he was actually
I
the
hear an
name
arrow
on the
buzz
ballot.
coming.
I heard you're a
His
Hillary
head
guy.
is
You gotta
getting
tell us who you vote for.
I First, let's tune everybody back in. If you're just joining us, Tom McKay here with 3D Politics. I've got David Van, SoonerPolitics.org, David Oldham, ConstitutionalGrounds.com, and Dave D'Ambroso. Google him right there. He owns Google. or a big chunk of it. You can just Google his name. And no, but the poll numbers here, Trump versus the generic Democrat. Yep. Evidently, this is from Sooner Politics. Evidently, the Oklahoma voters have largely discredited Eastern news media narratives because President Trump is enjoying support exceeding that of Reagan at the same point in 1983. Three basic reasons. Trump's job approval on Oklahoma rests at 61%, 20% higher than his most recent national average. Trump defeats an unnamed Democrat by a 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
And on the question of impeachment, Oklahoma's opposed it by more than 2-to-1. What do you know?
Well, yeah, and this actually was done by Amber Integrated, which is a new public relations and campaign consulting PR firm. They did this. I guess they're kind of going to be the next one competing with Sooner Poll, Bill Shepard, a bunch. But yeah,
he's still going.
Yeah, so there's going to be, that. In fact, if you look at soonerpolitics.org, or it's on our Facebook page, 3D Politics, there's actually 3 different issues they dealt with. One is his job approval. He's over 60% in Oklahoma. That's good. Nationally, he's in the mid-40s, and you think that, well, that's not bad. That's better than Obama had at this point in his first term. And then the generic Democrat, yeah. Now, here's the thing. He's 2-to-1 in Oklahoma over a generic Democrat. As soon as you put a name to that generic Democrat, it's even better. Okay?
Right.
So,
You're leaving hope.
Yeah,
for a Democrat that might
right.
do the job.
And then the impeachment thing, it's by a 2-to-1 margin. We're against it in Oklahoma.
One of the dirty secrets a lot of people don't know about politics, one of the reasons why the polling really hardly ever matters, is it doesn't typically matter how someone feels about a candidate. What matters a lot more is, do they recognize their name or not?
Yeah.
And the reason why your presidents of the United States far more often than not get 2 terms versus 1 is because you heard that guy's name for 4 years in the press prominently.
Yeah.
And you don't know it, but your brain knows it, and that matters to you more than whether you like him or not or what he's done.
But to hear the Democrats, that's called abuse of office. You're using your office to get reelected. Every incumbent does it.
When the Republicans do it, it's abuse of office. When the Democrats do it, it's good PR.
Yeah, wait, doesn't the
elections
president
have consequences, as one black
president
president said.
No, doesn't he get to use Air Force One to campaign, right? Every president from now until the end of time.
They have to reimburse on campaign trips.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's fair. Yeah. But still, how can you quantify the value of having that iconography behind someone's name? It's literally priceless.
It's huge.
And to that effect, your incumbent and your incumbency advantage is the biggest you can have in politics.
I had to tell you, 4 years ago, it was the Iowa State Fair. So this would have been, mid-August, late August. The Des Moines Register has their stump where everybody gets like 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
And so there was Bernie Sanders taking his time on the stump outside in the open air, and not even 500 yards away, the Trump helicopter lands. And the whole crowd runs down there, including all the media. And I'm watching, this is on C-SPAN, Bernie Sanders, and he's talking, and he says this, and there's the Trump helicopter. I'm sorry, I left my helicopter at home in the garage, And so what can you do? He said, that was his action. What can you do? He had lost everything. So this is, Trump had that persona, that mystique. He had been building that public image for the last 3 decades.
Right.
And he knows how this game is played. And he's good at it.
And there's one where he did a flyby, too. It was just perfect timing. I mean, I don't know that Trump designed this, but his jet totally washed out the sound of, I think it was Hillary Clinton.
Oh, I thought it was Beto down at
it could have been. It could have been. His jet comes in, and you can't hear anything this Democrat's saying. It lands, and everyone goes over there. He's like, well, I don't know what you can say about that, essentially. It was another funny moment.
Yeah, so, the incumbency. But, as Obama said, elections have consequences.
Yep.
And did that Obama fly over in New York right after he was elected? He flew down. It was just right after he did a photo op. They gave hell about
Yes, they
it.
did.
You remember that?
Yeah, it was back when no one else was able to fly that
Yes,
corridor
New
for a
York
period
was
of
a
time.
no-fly zone.
Along the Hudson, you couldn't fly along there. They've opened it back up, but at the time he did it at the spur of the moment, and so.
That'd be an abuse of power.
You know what? They may have had it
Yes.
open. What was so bad was they had to clear all the traffic out so he could do it.
Well, here's an abuse of power: committing multiple felonies by lying to our secret FISA courts, which shouldn't even exist in the first place.
Exactly.
About
They
premises
If it was more
to
than
investigate a
16
sitting
times,
president.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is this? And I've heard a lot of commentators
17?
say this, and this is
Yeah.
absolutely correct. What do you call it when 17 mistakes happen that benefit one side and hurt one side? But they're all coincidences, and they're all just mistakes.
I call
They're
it-
not coincidences. That's called bias.
It's called intelligent design. That's what that's
Yeah,
called.
but getting back to your point about how is this playing in Oklahoma? Yeah, I appreciate Amber Integrated for doing this. I think it's spot on, and I wish them well. Do a good job. Support candidates who support our individual liberties, and we'll be fine. But doing things like this is great, and I think we need to hear more of this from other states.
Well, and this is a great piece in Sooner Politics, and it winds up saying this information. This is an indicator that the monolithic narrative of the leftist media outlets are completely out of line with the convictions of Oklahomans.
Yeah.
This ought to be regarded as a warning to radio and television outlets in Oklahoma who have committed themselves to being affiliates, sycophants, I'll add, for the national networks like CBS, NBC, and ABC. And it's so true. I listen to whatever programming I want at the top of the hour. It is just party line, party line, party line.
Yeah.
And they have been getting worse of late.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they have really stopped producing so much of local content with a local flair, and they've gone to this whole national editorial bent to their narrative.
They're all editorials now, pretty much. You know.
I know you guys know MSNBC, but what is the CBS online entity?
CBSN.
CBSN. I watched Trump. I had CBSN on, and I watched Trump do. I think he had the guy from Paraguay, and they asked him a question about the impeachment, and Trump was saying, "Look, the impeachment's actually bolstering my numbers. It's actually ridiculous. I'm actually doing well. My base is strong. All these things are up. Or everything is up. It's actually winning for me." They cut from that to the anchor on the CBS online, and she says, Trump paints himself as a victim, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, back to back. Literally saying that he painted himself as a victim after he said, my poll numbers are up.
How do you know you're talking to a liar or listening to a liar? Because they tell you exactly the opposite of what was
What
just
you
said.
just heard,
What you
yeah.
just
And
heard.
so
Don't believe your lying
the
eyes.
real trick is recognizing them, accepting your own, because they try to make you doubt.
Gaslighting, yeah.
They try to make, is that what gaslighting is?
Yeah.
They try to make you doubt your what you heard and your own convictions.
They hit you in the face and then vehemently claim that they never did it.
Now, back in the
No,
70s,
yeah.
I remember a number of news anchors got together for a roundtable. We had Howard K. Smith, Harry Reasoner, John Chancellor, David Brinkley. I think it was all after Cronkite's day. But they were talking about
Paleos,
things.
remember.
And they said, well, I've worked with these guys, so I know who they are.
Yeah.
Was that
Abraham Lincoln.
David Brinkley said, the news media can't tell you what to think. They can do something more powerful. They can tell you what to think about.
Yes.
Now,
that's what we're talking about earlier. They're
but
framing the discussion.
now, it used to be that. They are now literally lying to you and telling you what you didn't hear, you heard. Or what you heard, you didn't hear.
Yes.
And that it's
Right.
the opposite.
Right.
And then they're playing, semantics games. Like there is no proof that the FISA had lies in it. The FISA
mask
court,
of objectivity has slipped, and they wear this mask, and what this mask looks like are tightly controlled language and tactics that they use. Instead of saying, I feel, or I think, or it would seem, they say, it is. not
Yeah.
I.
Right.
This is a fact.
Yeah.
And it's just totally slipping off.
Yeah.
And it's always been there. They've always manipulated us
Right.
and been biased, but now it's just so obvious and out there. But two things real quick. The polls are actually correct.
Mhm.
The reason why they don't seem correct is because no one's reading the small print. When you read the small print and you look at how they're weighing things, the numbers are actually very good and scientific. But the number you see has been weighted towards the observer's bias. What I mean by
That's
that
true,
is
yeah.
you'll see these asterisks. Well, these numbers are 42% approval, assuming, sampling 30% more Democrats than Republicans.
Yeah.
Well, what evidence is there that 30% more Republicans will show up than Democrats? That's one of the reasons I was so huge on Trump winning and telling people he was going to win before the election. Because I actually read the asterisks and I said, well, wait, there's no evidence at all 20, 30, 40% more Democrats
Right.
are going to show up for Hillary Clinton. Oh my gosh, I'm like, and if you consider that and look at the actual turnout, all the polls are correct. They're still correct, except it's the opposite. Probably we'll see about 50, Trump's probably really at 52, 55% among people that are going to actually vote.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Tom, back in '96 when I was working Pat Buchanan's campaign, and I brought him into Tulsa. We had a huge, it was massive event, and my job then again is I take care of the national media people and stuff, and I had to drive a couple of them to the airport afterwards. And, while they're finishing writing their stories in the back room, I said, well, do you guys, you feel like, you wish you were on Bush's campaign? And they said, oh, no, this is the campaign that all the press pool wants to be on. I said, why? He says, because Pat Buchanan's a journalist by training. He knows how to help us do our job, and he ends up getting something better out of it. And while I was driving the guy to the airport, he's the AP guy, I said, why is it that the national media seems to tilt so dramatically to the left? And he says, well, he says the prominent colleges and universities, he says, like I'm a Columbia school graduate. Pat Buchanan went to Columbia, an Ivy League school in New York City. He said, Columbia's in New York City. He said, it's just an echo chamber of liberalism. And they were using that term echo chamber then. That's the important thing. The problem with our national media is they don't realize that they live in an echo chamber. When I say echo chamber, I mean everybody telling you back the same thing you're telling them.
And it's all left.
Nobody's
All
challenging you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing media should be doing. Stuff like what we do here. We sometimes have to really challenge each other.
Yeah.
We try to do it in a polite and good way. Oldham tries, but
Might not look
it's
like it, but
again,
it's
you
trying.
got to challenge each other. If you're conservative, you need to have some liberal people that you can have a productive dialogue with. If you're liberal, you need conservatives you can dialogue with.
You guys need libertarians.
That's
what it is.
Yeah, okay. So this is the point. You've got to challenge things. What does Scripture say?
Iron sharpens
As
iron.
iron sharpens iron, so man sharpens man, and that's how it should be.
It's again back to the human nature thing. The more powerful or successful, the more likely the yes man involved, and the more likely the echo chamber produces itself.
Yeah.
Because somebody who's powerful or successful, if they're powerful, you don't want to cross them. If they're successful, you don't want to doubt that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So the first thing, if you think so, they're gonna automatically hear that echo chamber.
Yeah, and be careful that you don't allow groupthink, that you just go along to get along with whatever group you're part of.
Was it Winston Churchill, the famous routine where he got out of he ducked his Secret Service and went on the bus with the people to make an important decision about whether he was
on the subway.
On the subway
Yes.
is what it was. Yeah. Fantastic story because he wanted
It's the underground in London.
he wanted to get out of that bubble and hear what people said.
Well, Clinton did that too. It was late at night, but we didn't realize it was to go hook up with women.
No, yeah, but that did bring up.
He had quite a cross section of what all of the Kroll girls thought.
Well, but the question though remained for the investigative journalist: what did Monica eat and when did she eat it? 3D Politics at Tom E. McKay right here on Twitter. If you want to find me there, I've got all three Davids, the most important Davids in Oklahoma. David Van, David Oldham, David D'Ambroso. We're going to move on to, how about our new studio? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
How does it sound, guys?
Yeah.
I can't wait. The first thing I'm going to do after we get done filming is play it here to see how it sounds.
I do want to say much appreciation to Nedra Babcock, who's been hosting us for our entire
almost a year.
2019 season. We are
She's
wrapping
been
up.
great.
The most gracious host.
Yeah, we are
Almost
wrapping up the 2019 season here, and we felt like it'd be good to give you a preview of what 2020 is going to look like, sound like, and we're just going to keep tweaking it. Who knows? We may decide this doesn't work, and we'll go to another studio.
Always working to better it.
Yeah, and so for the next 2 weeks, Tom, might I
Please.
go to that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to go through some of the best segments we've had over this year, and there's good ones.
Objectively the best.
I've looked
So
at
there's a lot of me in there.
There will be not one that is not the best.
it's like
Not one.
like Tom not knowing which camera
No
to go. It
good
says,
for
"No, I
someone,
like
right?
me. I'm in this
Yeah.
camera." You know.
No,
But-
I love those. I forgot about that. People think I'm
The
kidding.
old
No
days. That was so
sarcasm.
funny, wasn't it?
Whenever it like shifts to you, and you are on your own, it's like cut.
Yeah,
And you sound, it's like Mystery Science Theater 3000 or like you're in Sputnik,
I'm in
like
the-
orbiting the Earth. It's
I'm in-
awesome.
Those were some early episodes.
I'm over there in the weather center.
So yeah, we did that. You know, we added. You know, the first couple months we were basically taping, and then eventually, you know, we got around to do post production and get it up on the
I
web.
listen
Well,
anyway.
we
I'm
rushed
going to
into
do
a
live.
Yeah, we had some breaking story and we rushed into doing it live and never looked back.
Yeah, and I like the feel of the live, the impromptu stuff. But then again, you know, we like the podcast. We like the library that we can keep pulling up videos, pulling up the audio and stuff like that. So for the next couple weeks, while we're out visiting family or getting other things done, enjoying the holidays and the holiday beverages, I don't know which yours are, we're going to play some of the best of, and then after the new year starts, we'll hit it up again.
We're still working on being able to bring a guest in, an adversarial guest, to discuss what we agree and disagree about.
And even possibly a sycophant.
And even a sycophant, too. We'll have one of each. And thanks to David Oldham's investment in some sound equipment,
Yes.
we will also be next year working towards being able to roll sound clips, audio bites, so that we'll be able to comment on what those sound clips from the news are, and then ultimately, of course, roll the video clip as well so we can comment on that. We do. One more story besides the fact that all of the big competition with the beautiful ladies have been won by women of color. Did you hear that story?
Yes.
And I say, so what? They're not any different. So anyway, I
Very
lust
true.
after them all the same. They're all beautiful women. One more story before we get out of here. New Jersey vaccine exemptions, right?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so I'm going to set David Oldham up with this story to read you the following information to explain the New Jersey vaccination exemptions as they currently exist. There are medical and religious, and the medical must be written by a physician or a nurse practitioner, and the religious is a parent or guardian's letter to the school nurse to claim that exemption, and New Jersey law does not permit parents to exempt their children for philosophical, moral, or conscientious reasons, which makes me ask you then what is religious?
Exactly. Well, you nailed that one.
I mean, if that's
well,
not, yeah.
but here's the thing. What they want to do, what they have been doing, is they have been making you cite your church and then verifying if your church doctrine agrees with your religious beliefs. So therefore, if you don't belong to a church that backs you up, then they actually deny you and tell you you have to be you have to get your kids vaccinated or get out of public school.
And
That's literally what they've been
so
doing.
it doesn't have to be from a recognized religion.
Yes.
It does also.
It
so
would have
first
to be
it has
a recognized religion.
and a religion that backs you up and says, "No, he's not fake."
That is the way they have been doing it.
You're right to say that our faith is a philosophy, but they're not allowing all philosophical positions, only those which are tied to a particular creed.
And to a particular large group.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
whatever
yes.
the
Yeah,
deciders.
I mean, because if it's
deciders'
hey, my
opinions
my
are.
religion is me and my house,
again, And again, it's not a constitutional right then
Holdenism.
because it has to meet the threshold of number of adherents in order for you to be
you mean,
acknowledged.
well, they're denying the individual's constitutional right. They're
Yeah.
only acknowledging the rights of a group.
So
And they've done this for decades, even with conscientious objectors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Now, mind
they
you,
would interview you to make sure that your church's doctrine was that of pacifism.
okay, so I have to make sure that we're clear. We're not even to the egregious part of the story yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're bagging on New Jersey for their unconstitutional actions so far. Correct?
It gets worse.
Right.
It gets
But wait,
worse.
But
there's
before
more.
you get that, I want to say now, David is the high priest of the Church of the Absolute Truth. The fact that not many people go to church with him every Sunday is beside the point. He's right. So therefore, it doesn't matter how many people agree with him.
during the war, I was a conscientious objector, and I wanted to kill people, but my religion just wouldn't let me.
Yeah, but here's my point on philosophy, because it has to be, aside from a religious creed, because vaccines are a socialism. It's just not, you're not sharing your wealth, you're sharing your health. You're putting your
body.
health at risk.
Stop the knock and share the hell.
According to their theory of the herd mentality and stuff, is that they're going to have their protected classes whom they bestow that protection on, and it's up to them to choose who is exempt.
That is a better phrase. I hope that wasn't an accident.
And the rest of us can go to the grave as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, so-
Because they think that your health is worth risking, but their favored charity bunch, their health is not worth risking.
So let me read
right.
one paragraph and give them a source here so they can tune in if they want to. This is from the New Jersey Spotlight, December 12th. Staten, Lilo Staten. Controversial measure in New Jersey would end all religious vaccine exemptions for students. The final paragraph, Lane, a person named Lane, opposes the mandate, said the measure essentially coerces parents into accepting vaccine in return for access to education for their children. So therein lies the rub.
Well, and the as frequent watchers have by now noted, I am saying, look, the public tax-funded public schooling system is completely a criminal enterprise, and therefore the people that are in it need to get out of it, because these criminals are going to treat you like criminals treat everybody, and they're not going to treat you well. So the answer is to get out of it. But it gets worse in New Jersey
Tell us.
than even that. That's what they're going through right now. And to get these bills to pass, quite frankly, Friday, the state Senate pro tem kicked two people off of the committee that was necessary that was the bill was before, and put in two of his own ally lackeys so that he could then flip the vote from a no vote to a yes vote. Okay? But what is around the corner, and language is already out there, is taking it out of the program, the charity program run by the state, namely public schooling.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, they've been going after elders with, hey, if you're getting Medicaid or Medicare, then you got to get vaccinated. You got to get your flu shot. You got to get your the chickenpox one for
I believe
adults.
that's why the city
And-
elders were formed, to protect elder rights. Correct.
Yeah, Josh.
And
City
I
elders,
would
do
hope.
you realize what he's
So-
talking about?
so-
here?
and
They're
then-
coming after you.
But the thing is that now they're working on stepping outside of these programs and just mandating it for everybody, just like New York City was doing, in the sense that they were going after people that were homeschooled. They were going after people just out on the street just because they were on the street.
You do need a coalition. You need a collective. Out there by yourself, you're weak.
Yeah.
If you're not joining politically with like-minded people and engaging in activism, I mean, you're next. You're going to be the person on the block. It'll be your rights they take.
But let us also understand that this is literally a loaded gun to your head. I mean, it's going to be a needle in the arm, but they're going to come with loaded guns behind it to
They're going
make
to
sure
come
you
blow
take
your
it.
brains out to make sure you're safe.
So you can see,
You know,
here,
they got to protect you to death.
Again, from this New Jersey Spotlight article, there's a guy named Michael Weinstein or Weinstein. This is our climate change, he says, tying it, of course, to the other liberal consensus concept. But he's the director of the pro-vaccine New Jersey Immunization Coalition. And he's underscoring the overwhelming scientific evidence of how vaccines protect public health. And he says it's your choice to vaccinate your children or not, Weinstein said, but it's the state's responsibility to protect public health by requiring school children to be immunized. Once again, I'll call on all public school truancy laws to be dropped. This is one of the problems.
Yes.
We wouldn't have the problem if you weren't forced to go to the school. You can't go. He's sitting here suggesting you don't have to go to school if you don't want to, if you don't going to get in. That's a lie. There's
Does this
truancy laws.
apply to private schools?
I have no idea.
And I've got a compromise. Fine, don't let kids go to school if they're not vaccinated. If that's what you guys want to do, but then give that family a full refund of their property tax.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that, again, people are still paying for this. People like you or David or Tom are paying for this, even though you may or may not agree with the vaccines or the things that they're teaching in school. You're still being forced to fund a charity that you fundamentally disagree with.
Yeah, and just to clarify, it's not just your property tax that go to the schools. The major source of funding
Sales tax.
is sales tax
Yep.
at the
Oh,
state level.
and
At
don't
least
forget-
no, wait a minute. At least in Oklahoma, I can't say that
It's
in
not,
informed
it's not the
sense.
same in every state.
Right.
That
in
might
New
be a
Jersey,
great discount if they mandate your kid gets vaccinations and you don't want them. That might be a great tax rebate and send them to homeschool.
And don't
But then
forget,
again-
in Tulsa,
but then
your
again, you
taxes
gotta-
are going up 2021, July 1st.
Yep. Yep.
So there's just all of these things. We as Oklahomans have to be aware of these things. They are trying these things out in the blue states. The blue states also are all that are doing these tyrannical acts are all states that are depending on big pharma money to help bring them out of their debt load because they're so over their head in debt. And that is to a one. There's not a state that isn't going through this that isn't also in massive amounts of debt and looking for some help.
I'd like to see the methodology by which these courts are deciding which philosophies of religion are legitimate or not. I would like to see their objective standards and how they objectively apply them.
Here's the thing.
Because there aren't
If
any.
you want a
Oh,
scary
can't.
video, if you want a truly scary video, it was a mother and father who recorded their interview where they went and had to appear before a tribunal to decide whether or not their religious beliefs were truly held. This was about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's up on YouTube. It may have been cleansed by now, but I can probably find it and
Why don't
put it
you
up on 3D.
Good.
But I will put the word out. My vaccine choice friends.
Might
Let me
beat you
know
to
where
it.
let me know where it's housed, and so we can get it up. But
Yeah.
the point is, it is a scary video when people submit themselves to this. I say words that I can't say on TV to people who want to dictate to me like that. But again, I also don't participate in these programs that are not actually a matter of my right.
Yeah.
I don't have no one has a right to the charity of somebody else.
Well, if you just took the concoction that's in the vial that they're getting ready to stick into the child, and then back up the chain and find out who really knows what's in that vial, ask the person giving the shot, they don't know. Ask the person who delivered the shot, they don't know, and go all the way back up. They don't have any idea.
Well, and it's
what's
Nor
in
the
that.
legislature.
they,
Exactly.
they don't have a long
Actually, the
studies.
legislature vetoed a bill that would require that the ingredients be listed. That was like
Yes.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, they literally argued we have to veto this bill that requires.
Why do you need to know
Informed
that?
consent. Simple informed
Yeah.
consent.
Well, like, my wife, the doctor says you're allergic to eggs, you're allergic to aluminum. Those are in a lot of vaccines.
Oh yeah, they're grown on albumin.
Yeah.
And then it's injected. And the worst part is the injection is bypassing all of your natural immune defenses.
Yes.
And taking it right into areas that it's not supposed to ever be.
David,
And if it was
David,
was
where's your
natural, it
degree?
wouldn't ever be.
Where's your degree
Yeah,
in biochemistry?
yeah.
Where's your consensus? Without those two logical fallacies, appeal to authority,
Wow.
groupthink. I can't defeat
Thank you,
you.
D'Ambrosio.
I
You
have-
almost had me.
I have the best degree ever. I have the degree from Google Academy.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Anything else, gentlemen, before we break for a great 2 weeks? We're going to have all that best of. We're going to try to work out some of our exciting tech for an exciting show.
Merry
next year.
Christmas, Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year, everybody.
Enjoy the celebration that Christ came to live among us.
Amen.
Yes.
Anything else, gentlemen?
No. In fact, you know what? They say Jesus born in the manger is probably any month except December. But I don't want to get D'Ambrosio and Oldham started.
Oh,
He was
the
born
way
6
back-
months after John the Baptist, which
Yeah.
would have been sometime in the fall.
Yeah.
Because we know when John the Baptist was born, I think, in the text. You know,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter. I mean, come on, look. Everybody knows at Christmas they've taken some liberties, and you know, since you're 3 years old, Jesus wasn't born today. But this is when we choose to celebrate his birthday because we know,
Santa's real.
you know what?
No,
He would want his birthday
But
celebrated.
it's important because this is the month of all months you can build a snowman, maybe, and that's why. Snowman.
Man,
There's
maybe.
nothing more
It has
essential
nothing to
Christmas
do with
than-
Saturnalia or my people dominating most of Europe or the religion at that
Yeah.
time and then saying, hey,
Absolutely
how about this pagan
nothing.
holiday?
Yeah.
And we'll say Jesus was born then.
Wait,
Yeah.
who's been
But
in the
Merry
Wayback
Christmas.
Machine lately?
Merry
Yeah.
Christmas.
And actually, Oldham here, he's more likely to celebrate Festivus, where the airing of grievances. That's what he does every Monday night here.
You get some good things, some bad things from the Romans. You get the Republic, and then you get Christmas. Like, whatever.
But anyway, no, our best to you all, and thank you for being a part of this first year with us.